Disney, a tale as old as time, a company full of quality. But does this stand true in the modern time? Well, to find out, we're going to have to go back and see the whole history of Disney. On a cold December day, on the 5th, 1901, a small boy was born named Walt Disney. Now, this boy was very insignificant at the time, but he would come to change the world. Growing up with his 5 siblings, Walt would spend most of his time after work, after school, going to his local farm, drawing his neighbour's horse, and drawing the local trains. Disney found early on his love for drawing. So as to be expected, in 1919, Walt went to go and get his first proper job. Now this job was at Penson Robin, which was a commercial company at the time who worked in animation. And there he would meet someone called Works, who would come to help create a little person called Mickey Mouse. After Walt's short time as an apprentice, he would go on to create Laugh-O-Gram Incorporated, where he would go on and create Alice's Wonderland, which was a mix of live action and animation, which at the time was pretty revolutionary, which would be the key to Walt's success later down the line. But after the sad failure of Laugh-O-Gram Studio, Walt wanted a new change of scenery, so he moved to California, which conveniently was where his brother Roy lived. He believed that there was more opportunities in California for him, and boy was he right. But the film Alice's Wonderland did not die with the company. It actually caught the eye of Margaret Winkler, who had commissioned Disney to create more of these shorts and create a series. And so, Walt Disney, and his brother were in business. They went to go on and create the Walt Disney Studios. Now that sounds pretty familiar to me. So Walt and Works at the time decided to create a new character called Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. You weren't expecting that, were you? Well, don't worry, it's not your fault, because soon after he was created, Walt lost the rights to him to Universal. So that's early tensions on there. But after losing Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, sparks would start to fly, and a new character was in the making. Yes, this is all what you've been waiting for. On Walt's journey back home, he came up with a new character, a new design with Works. This character was called the one and only Mortimer Mouse. Hang on, what do you mean you don't know who Mortimer Mouse is? He's like the most famous icon. Oh wait. Yep, you didn't know this. Walt didn't actually come up with the name Mickey. His wife did. So after creating Mortimer Mouse, he told his wife. And she said, that's a dreadful name. That is a terrible name. And instead, she suggested Mickey Mouse. But don't worry, the name Mortimer did not die. It was later used for one of his arch enemies, Mortimer Mouse. So, there's a bit of history for you. The rise of Disney. You thought that was the rise of Disney? Boy, we're just getting started. On the 18th of November, 1928, Walt released a little film called Steamboat Willie, which premiered at the Colony Theatre in New York. While the film had no shortage of positive reviews, ones like the New York Times, who wrote, ingenious piece of work with a good deal of fun. They must have really enjoyed that. But that's not the end of Disney, as you know. He went on to create more and more shorts of Mickey Mouse, becoming even more and more popular. But in 1938, a whole 10 years after Steamboat Willie, Walt would go on to create Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which released to a critical acclaim. It broke new records as the first in-colour theatrical animation release, which went on to blow the already popular Disney into stardom. Walt had finished wishing on a star, and he had hit the top, but he wasn't done yet. Oh boy, was he not done. Because in 1940, just 2 years later, Walt would go on to release Fantasia, which was a nice mix of audio, nice visuals, that was all synchronised. And this film did very, very well. That's not just what Walt had in his back pocket. In 1940, he went on to release Pinocchio, and then Dumbo in 1941, Bambi in 1942, Cinderella in 1950, Alice in Wonderland in 1951, and Peter Pan in 1953. And you wonder why Walt Disney's a chain smoker. And somehow, while creating all these fantastic films, Walt had time to come up with a new idea, a new dream, a new goal. A goal no one would believe in. This goal was a little idea called Disneyland. Now the seed was planted, so he rushed home to tell his wife, and his wife said, Why would you want to create one of those dirty, disgusting, dangerous carnivals? And Walt looked at his wife and said, but mine will be different. And so, the expansion of Disney into the theme park industry started, which at the time had never been done by a film studio. And to build this park, it took him 1 year to build a park. Jiminy cricket! How the hell did he do that? The how? Well, that would come back to bite on the 15th of July, 1955, on Disneyland's opening day. This opening day was called Black Sunday. It even has a cool title. The speed the park was built in showed. The highly anticipated Disneyland caused a few problems. Many people would jump in the fences to get into the park, causing it to be rather overcrowded. The tarmac, which had only just been put down, was melting in the hot Los Angeles sun. And the rides were breaking down, there was no drinks, and overall it wasn't a very good experience and definitely not a good showcase of the Disney quality. These problems caused Disney to fail, right? Disney came back and he fixed all those problems and it became one of the best theme parks in the world. After creating tons of great amazing films, a new theme park, you'd think Walt would be done. Well, you're wrong, because Walt had a new idea, very similar to his last one, Disney World. Disney World came into his head after he wanted to expand Disneyland, and he come to find all the land around it was bought. Yep, that really annoyed Walt, because his already hard to expand park was even harder. So Walt thought to himself, maybe I should open a new park, buy loads of land, but where? Well, he chose Florida. So Walt decided to buy loads of land in Florida under a new disguise, so people wouldn't start buying the land around there, and he bought a whopping 27 acres. Hang on, did I just say 27 acres? Sorry, I meant 27,000 acres. Boy, did he not like them buying the land. But sadly, on the 15th of December, 1966, Walt Disney would pass away. A man who had changed the world forever had passed away. But his death did not affect the creation of Disney World. His brother, Roy, didn't want to let his brother's dreams die. So he picked up where Walt left off and started the creation of Disney World. And 4 years later, definitely a bit longer than Disneyland, the park opened to great success, which would give the Walt Disney Company a nice little project to work on throughout the years. And yes, they did work on it very hard. The Fall of Disney. After the release of The Jungle Book in 1967, the Disney Corporation started releasing some not so popular films. These films included, there's so many I've got to actually read this, Astro Cats, Robin Hood, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, The Rescuers, and even they couldn't rescue Disney, The Fox and the Hound, which is personally one of my favourite films, The Black Cauldron, no, I've never even heard of that either, The Great Mouse Detective, and finally, Oliver and Company. Most of these films did not do as expected. They did very, very poorly, and tarnished the Disney name quite considerably. The Disney Company was left in a situation where they didn't know what to do after Walt's death. But this fall only affected the films, because the parks, yeah, they was doing really well. They was doing so well, in fact, they opened a few new parks, such as Typhoon Lagoon and MGM Studios. And they did so well that Disney decided to open some new stores, which at the time were very successful for the Disney Company. The first one opened in 1987, the Disney Renaissance. Well, I told you that was a small fall, because starting in 1899, a small little film was released called The Little Mermaid, which would start the Disney trend of releasing hit after hit after hit. Okay, here's the list. You better get ready for this. So we have Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Pocahontas, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Mulan, and Tarzan. If that isn't a long list, I don't know what is. And all the great success of these films, Disney decided to open another theme park overseas in France. And the films, they were doing so well, in fact, they actually surpassed the parks in profit. But the quality films, they didn't last too long, because with the turn of the century, Disney started to fall again. The true fall of Disney. The turn of the century was not good for Disney, with film after film failing financially. With only a few good ones, Disney was not looking good. With Dinosaur in 2000, Chicken Little in 2006, Disney were on a downward spiral on quality. With a few exceptions like Lilo and Stitch, it was not looking good. But for the first time, this decline affected the parks, with money grabbing tactics such as Genie Plus, $25 for parking and overpriced merchandise, it wasn't looking good. And in recent years, Disney hasn't even been bothered to create new bad films. They've instead chosen to go back to the Disney Renaissance, grab all those good films and make them bad, with live action remakes. Wow, how innovative. The Disney company in the modern times have clearly lost their way. Disney were no longer releasing okay films, great fantastic films. They were only releasing mediocre to bad films. Hopefully, Disney can experience another renaissance, a new era of Disney, full of quality and joy. I personally love Disney. You could probably see a few Disney things around my room, but Disney needs to start focusing on quality. Well, that's me out. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. See ya.